From WREL News and the Capital Broadcasting Podcast Network, this is your Coronavirus North Carolina News Brief for Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. I'm Cliff Baumgartner. Here's the latest from WREL.com. Under a bill that moved through committee at the General Assembly today, North Carolina businesses, universities, schools, and government agencies would get broad protections from COVID-19 lawsuits. House Bill 118 would widen liability immunities first drafted for essential businesses, which the legislature passed in early May. The immunity from lawsuits filed by people who catch the coronavirus that causes COVID-19 would extend to essentially every business in the state, plus government entities. Republican lawmakers backing the bill said it's difficult to determine where someone actually caught the virus, and that businesses just reopening after shutdown orders closed them for months don't need the threat of expensive legal action. People could still sue if a business demonstrates gross negligence or willful misconduct, but lawmakers were hard-pressed to give examples of what would qualify. The bill requires business owners to post signs describing what they've done to reduce, quote, the risk of transmission of COVID-19 to individuals present on the premises. But the bill also says they won't be liable, quote, for the failure of any individual to comply with rules, policies, or guidelines contained in the notice. The bill wouldn't apply to workers' compensation claims. The measure cleared the Senate Judiciary Committee and heads next to the Senate Rules Committee. Democrats complained that the measure should at least force businesses to follow government COVID-19 guidelines. Today, North Carolina hospitals reported a new high in coronavirus cases, with 85% of hospitals across the state reporting a record 829 people are in the hospital with COVID-like symptoms. The state reported 701 new coronavirus cases today, for a total since March of 46,901. Of those, approximately 29,219 people have recovered. Over the past 7 days, North Carolina's curve of cases continues to trend upwards, with an average of 1,242 new cases per day. The state has pretty much flattened the curve of deaths from the novel coronavirus, however. Over the past 7 days, an average of 18 people per day have lost their lives, and a total of 1,196 North Carolinians have died so far. Despite restrictions put in place by Governor Roy Cooper that have kept gyms across North Carolina closed for nearly 3 months, some gyms have recently reopened legally. The gyms are using a medical exemption outlined in a June 5th letter from the North Carolina Attorney General's office, which allows the use of indoor gyms or fitness facilities if that use is prescribed or directed by a medical professional. The executive order detailed which businesses could operate under what conditions during the second stage of Cooper's 3-phase plan to resume business and social activities during the coronavirus pandemic. Gyms were left out of the Phase 2 reopening plan, prompting some owners to challenge the restrictions in court. Others simply defied the order. Gyms aren't allowed to ask members for medical waivers or to talk about medical history because of the Americans with Disabilities Act and medical privacy laws. So, many are now opening their doors with a stipulation that people working out must have a doctor's note, one they can't ask to see. Last week, state lawmakers passed legislation that would allow gyms to reopen at half capacity, but Cooper hasn't yet acted on the measure. Johnston County school leaders have said they are working on 3 plans for the upcoming school year. Which plan is in place will depend on the level of coronavirus outbreak in the state and the county. Last week, the State Department of Public Instruction released a detailed list of guidelines for schools to consider before bringing students back to the classroom, including a mandate that each district have 3 plans in place. Under Plan A, all students would return to school with minimal social distancing, but enhanced health and sanitation protocols. With Plan B, no more than 50% of students would be present at any given time, in classrooms, hallways, or buses. And under Plan C, all learning would be done remotely. The Wake County Board of Education has held a series of public meetings to discuss how they might implement their plans. Meanwhile, Johnston County working groups are looking at ways to manage sports, remote learning, technology needs, and facilities. Governor Roy Cooper has said a decision on public schools would be made based on coronavirus metrics through July 1st. That gives individual schools just about 6 weeks to put plans in place before the start of the traditional calendar school year on August 17th. And finally, yesterday, U.S. Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue visited the Triangle as part of a program designed to get surplus produce to needy families during the pandemic. The $3 billion Farmers to Families program uses federal coronavirus relief money to purchase produce from farmers and package it in boxes that food banks and nonprofits can distribute to families. When the pandemic shut down restaurants, hotels, and schools, farmers had a hard time finding buyers for all of the food they produce. Distributors had to lay people off, while grocery store shelves were bare. Perdue said there's been plenty of food throughout the crisis, there just wasn't a way to get it to people. Saying, quote, "We had 2 tracks of processing and delivery logistics, and when one stops, it's like a 4-lane highway with 2 lanes shut down. You know what happens, it gets backed up." In North Carolina, the program distributes about 180,000 pounds of food per week, much of it to rural counties like Vance, where resources are scarce and hunger is real. Perdue said Farmers to Families is likely to be extended for some time. Coronavirus relief packages also provide $16 billion in direct payments to farmers hurt by the pandemic. This has been your Coronavirus North Carolina News Brief for Tuesday, June 16, 2020. As always, if you like the information and resources you get from this show, let us know. Leave a rating and review wherever it is you listen. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our new episodes. Thanks for listening.